It looks like a steering wheel from a spacecraft, or a component ripped out of a hyperdrive engine. It defies the timeline. In the first dynasty of Egypt, humanity was just figuring out how to stack mud bricks. Their tools were copper and stone. Yet, buried in the sand of Saqqara, archaeologists found this: a single piece of metasiltstone, carved with a precision that shouldn't exist for another 5,000 years. Engineers see a flywheel. Historians see a vase. The fringe theorists see a piece of lost technology left behind by the gods. The establishment dismisses it as a ritual object. The internet calls it an impossible artifact. Today, we open the file on the Sabu disk. We separate the archaeology from the science fiction, because sometimes the official explanation leaves more questions than answers. The year was 1936. The location, the edge of the plateau at Saqqara, overlooking the ancient capital of Memphis. British Egyptologist Walter Emery was excavating the tomb of Prince Sabu, a high official under the pharaoh Anajib. This wasn't a pauper's grave. Tomb 3111 was a massive mud brick mastaba. Sabu was the son of a king. He had the resources of the state at his disposal. When Emery breached the burial chamber, he found the usual grave goods: stone vessels, flint knives, copper tools. But sitting in the center, shattered into fragments, was an object that didn't fit the pattern. Emery called it a schist bowl. But that description is a definitive middle finger to the complexity of the object. It has a central hub with a biconical shape. It has 3 curved lobes meant to fold inward toward the center. It has a rim that defies gravity. The walls are millimeters thick. The symmetry is unnerving. If you look at the rest of the First Dynasty catalogue, you see bulky, functional pottery. You see heavy stone jars. Then you see this. It looks like it was printed, not carved. The cameras stopped rolling on the First Dynasty 5,000 years ago, but the canon of what they were capable of is still being written. Was this a ritual vessel? Or was it a functional component of a machine we simply don't understand? Let's look at the hardware. The disc is carved from metasiltstone. In older texts, you'll hear it called schist. It is a sedimentary rock. It is incredibly brittle. It has a distinct cleavage plane. If you hit it wrong, it doesn't chip. It shatters. It exfoliates. Working this material with copper chisels is a disaster waiting to happen. The First Dynasty had copper. Soft copper. They had flint. They had abrasive sands like quartz. The standard archaeological model says they used these abrasives to grind the stone into shape. Hours of rubbing. Days of polishing. Years of labor for a single object. But look at the geometry. This isn't a bowl. A bowl holds liquid. If you pour water into the Sabu disk, it flows out of the 3 lobes. It fails at the one job a bowl has. The structure is complex. The lobes curve inward. To carve this by hand, using a stone rubber or a copper tool, requires you to remove material from the inside out, navigating delicate curves without snapping the thin rim. One slip, and the structural integrity fails. Critics of the hand-carved theory point to the symmetry. It is radial. It implies rotation. When you make a clay pot own a wheel, radial symmetry is natural. When you carve a sedimentary rock, radial symmetry is a nightmare. Prince Sabu had hundreds of stone vessels in his tomb. They are impressive, but they are static. They are blocks with holes drilled in them. The disc is dynamic. It suggests motion. The tools existed to cut the stone. That is a fact. Sand is harder than schist. But the design intent is the mystery. Why carve a shape that is so fragile, so complex, and functionally useless as a container? This is where the historians and the engineers start shouting at each other. The historians see a symbolic representation of a lotus flower. The engineers see a design constraint. They see a shape that is optimized for airflow or water displacement. If this was just art, why make it so dangerously thin? Why the specific curvy off the lobes? It feels like a schematic that was followed to the letter. It feels like a specification. Now we enter the realm of speculation. The ancient tech argument. The idea that this isn't a vase, but a spare part. If you place the Sabu disk in a housing and spin it, it acts as an impeller. It draws fluid in from the center and pushes it out through the lobes. It creates pressure. Engineers have 3D printed replicas. They have tested them in water tanks. The results are disturbing. It works. It actually functions as a pump. It creates a vortex. Others look at it and see a flywheel. a device used to store rotational energy. In this theory, the heavy rim maintains momentum, smoothing out the power delivery of a machine. And then there is the aesthetic connection, the tree-lobed design, the central hub. It looks like a component of a larger mechanism. Did the Egyptians see a device left over from a pre-dynastic civilization? A civilization that had left the lights on? The theory goes like this: the Egyptians didn't build the machine. They saw the machine. They saw the gods, or the ancients, using technology. And they copied it. It's the cargo cult hypothesis. If you see a plane land, and you don't understand aerodynamics, you build a replica out of straw and wood to make the gods return. If the Sabu disc is a cargo cult copy, it explains why it's made of stone. A real impeller would be metal. It would be titanium or steel to withstand the RPMs, stone shatters under centrifugal force. This is the fatal flaw in the functional machine part theory. You cannot use this specific artifact as a flywheel. It would explode. It is too brittle. So, is it a model? A blueprint carved in stone for future generations? Did Prince Sabu hold the knowledge of the ancients, preserving the design of a hyperdrive intake or a water generator in the only medium that would survive the ages? It looks aerodynamic. It looks like it belongs in a wind tunnel. But we have to remember the context. This was found in a tomb. It was broken. It was deliberately placed with the dead. The Stargate comparisons are inevitable. The chevron shape is a staple of sci-fi design because it implies direction and movement. The Sabu disc captures that same energy. It feels alien because it uses curves that we associate with mold plastics and cast metals, not chiseled rock. Let's strip away the sci-fi. Let's look at what the First Dynasty actually prioritized. The lotus, the symbol of Upper Egypt, the symbol of rebirth. The tree-lobed shape of the disc perfectly mimics a lotus flower viewed from above. If you place a lamp in the center, the lobes shield the flame while allowing air to circulate. If you place incense, the smoke curls through the distinct curves. We know the Egyptians were masters of stone. By the Fourth Dynasty, they were building the pyramids. They were cutting granite with a precision that we still struggle to explain. The Sabu disc is the precursor to that capability. Under the Step Pyramid, archaeologists found 40,000 stone vessels. Many were made of hard stone. Many were incredibly complex. The Sabu disc is unique, yes, but it isn't isolated. It represents the peak of a craft that was obsessed with pushing the material to its breaking point. Why was it broken? In the First Dynasty, killing an object was a common ritual. You break the vessel to release its spirit so it can serve the deceased in the afterlife. The fact that it was found in fragments isn't a sign of a crash landing. It's a sign of a funeral rite. So, here is the verdict. Is it a Stargate component? No. The material science doesn't support it. Is it a copy of ancient tech? It's a seductive idea. It explains the impossible shape. But the most likely answer is almost more impressive. It is a flex. It is a craftsman saying, I can take this brittle, unforgiving rock, and I can make it flow like water. It was a display of power. Prince Sabu had the wealth to commission the impossible. He had the best artisans in the world. They didn't need lasers. They had time, sand, and an infinite amount of patience. Does it interact with fluid dynamics? Yes, because nature dictates the most efficient shapes. The lotus flower evolved to be efficient. The craftsman copied the lotus. Therefore, the craftsman inadvertently built an impeller. It isn't magic. It's physics. The Egyptians understood the geometry of nature. We look at it and see a machine. They looked at it and saw a flower that would never wilt. The Sabu disc remains one of the most compelling objects in the archaeological record. It sits in the Cairo Museum, challenging everyone who walks past it. We want it to be a piece of a starship. We want the universe to be bigger and stranger than the history books admit. And in a way, it is. The fact that human hands carved this 5,000 years ago is a miracle in itself. They didn't leave the lights on. They lit the fire themselves. What other artifacts do you think are misunderstood technology? Let us know in the comments below. And if you love deep dives into the real history behind the lore, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss an expedition.